Everybody, I'm Adam Roversity. I'm the director of the Kaua'i County Housing Agency. The folks you see standing around the sides of the room are all staff from the Housing Agency, along with our consultants from Kaua'i Engineering who've helped with this process. We're here for the fourth and final community meeting for the development of this concept plan. So we're working on a community-driven concept for the development of 50 acres in Kilauea. This isn't, however, the last chance for community involvement. So once this concept process is wrapped up, we'll be working to finalize the environmental assessment for the project, and there'll be another batch of community meetings focused just on that environmental review document. We'll talk about that a little more. So I appreciate and I hope that we've been able to capture all of the community feedback that we've gotten from you folks over our last series of meetings. Will is going to go through, he's going to lead most of this meeting today. I'll get back up and be a talking head a few more times. I do have a couple of notes. So when we do these county meetings, everybody always wants to know about other projects that are happening. So I do have a few updates about some of the other things going on in Kilauea from a county perspective, understanding that, bear with me a second. As people from the housing agency, we can't help you with the potholes on your streets and some other things, but just for information, so we reached out to the State Department of Transportation about the roundabout project that we've all been living with for a while, and they tell us that by the end of August, that roundabout should be fully operational in all directions for turns. It won't, however, be completely finished with all the landscaping, the sidewalks, and everything until November. But hopefully by the end of August, you'll be able to turn in any direction you want, coming from whichever street you like, and be able to operate using the roundabout. If you've been to these meetings in the past, you're probably also aware of the pending county road improvements that are going to be reworking much of Kilauea Road and building a new roundabout internal to town at the Kilauea Road intersection and at the Kilauea Namahana Parkway intersection near Prom 1. So that project was originally scheduled to start in November. It looks like it's going to be delayed. They're keeping their fingers crossed that they're going to be able to start this year. The upside is we may have some respite after the state project is finished before construction immediately starts again. But that county project, which is going to put sidewalks all the way to the lighthouse from Kilauea Road, is still pending, but a little delayed. Another item specifically related to this project. So at County Council on August 27th, there's going to be an approval of the dedication of the property that will be the future Namahana Parkway. So if you see anything in the newspaper or public notices about the hearing for that dedication, it shouldn't be a controversial item. I expect the County Council is going to approve it without blinking twice, so I don't think it needs a huge outpouring of support. But that will transfer the roadway parcel for Namahana Parkway from Bill Hay, the current owner, to the county for the road development project that we've been planning on as part of this process. The last thing I want to talk about a little bit is funding. So in advance of the very first community meeting we did for this project, probably coming on a year ago now, I was walking around Kilauea Town putting up posters to advertise the meeting. And a building contractor I've known for a long time asked me what I was doing, and I showed him the poster and encouraged him to come to the meeting. And he sort of scoffed at me and said, "Oh, they've been talking about that for 20 years. It's never going to happen." He didn't even want to look at the poster. He wasn't going to come to the meeting. So I want to just give you folks an overview highlight of how much funding and resources the county has put into this project, in the hopes that encourages you that there's some momentum to actually make it happen. And we're not here just involved in talk. It's not going to result in any results. So to date, we've received and extended a $375,000 state transit-oriented development grant for this planning process. The county has allocated $450,000 in from our county GET tax fund for transportation projects to the design of the Namahana Parkway. We've received $1.6 million in federal grants for the design and construction documents for the subdivision. We received $1.8 million in federal grants for the design and engineering of the wastewater treatment plant that we'll be talking about. We've received $2 million in federal grants for subdivision construction. And we have an expectation in 2027 of over $17 million in federal funding to pay for the construction of Namahana Parkway. So the county, in particular, Mayor Kaua'i and his administration put a great deal of effort funding behind making this a reality and not just a plan that's going to sit on the shelf for the next 20 years. So hopefully that is assuring for the folks who want to see this project. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Will. Thank you all for coming.
Okay, next slide. So if you didn't have a chance to check in, on the side table, front table, these side tables, there are physical sign-in sheets that you can, we want to keep track of who's coming, not necessarily who you are, but how many people are attending. But these are also digital ways you can do it. So if you want to just scan this with your phone, the left to check into the meeting is on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side is for later in the presentation. So if you've already checked in, you might want to scan down on the right. This is if you are comfortable using cell phones. You can also write in questions later. That right code is for a panel discussion that we're going to have later on in the presentation. So if you're able to scan that code, it allows you to type in questions as you think about them as things are going on. Otherwise, you can write them down. There are some notepads, so if you just walk out, grab a pad, write a question, and we'll try and go through as many questions during the panel as possible. So I'll be fielding questions through electronic devices as well as physical paper copies that people write in. So that's live for today. Everything after this, up until that panel discussion, is more or less a quick review and an update as to where we're at right now. Then we get into the panel discussion and talk about next steps. Next slide. Okay, so if you came to meeting number 1, 2, 3, this is actually meeting number 4. So has anybody come to all 4 meetings? Wow, look at that. So bear with me if you've been here before, but this is a quick recap. We watched about 10 minutes or so going through the past 3 meetings, so we know where we're at today, and that sets us up for the details of what's going to be discussed. So in 2006, there was a Kilauea Town Plan. I think this is where Adam was alluding to the comment, is this ever going to really happen? Well, yes, it is going to happen. Last year, the county has secured the parcel which is dedicated to this expansion project. And it is moving forward, particularly hinging on that Namahana Parkway design and construction. Next slide. So during the meetings, we always want to get some sort of feedback. Meeting number 1 was getting a lot of feedback, what you guys wanted, what your vision was, so we could start developing concept plans for this. Some of the notes that came out of those comments from you folks is here as follows. General concerns, obviously infrastructure, water, wastewater, traffic, safety, the character of the community. You guys don't want the community to be altered. So whatever's built has to somewhat fit with what's existing. And the last one, of course, transportation mobility, multi-generational, how to get around without driving. Can you walk? Can you bike? Improve traffic, slowing driving down to allow for better pedestrian multi-use access. Next slide. So in the October meeting, we came out with a few different site layouts. So this was number 1. We're going to flip through 3. Now, you may think I can't process all this see even the past presentations, recordings, PowerPoints. This plan is online, so you can flip through and see how it's evolved. So this was the first alternative that was presented at that October meeting. The central part of town was the commercial and live-work area. There was some light industry at the corner along the highway with a mix of different residential, multifamily, single-family homes throughout the rest of the community. So next slide, that's number one. Next slide is number two. So you saw it adjusted slightly. How things are laid out changed a little bit. The commercial in this one shrank a bit. Live-work was pushed to the side of the street where the future school is going to be built. And as you can see, some things stay the same. You know, that big chunk of single family, that light yellow in the middle, more or less stays the same. There was a high demand, obviously, for single family. People want to own their own home. But we realize there's a need for multifamily as well. So those are things that have gone into the development of the concept moving forward. And then, so watch this number two and number three. Next slide. So number three, switch stuff up again. Commercial moved down to the highway side. Multifamily more towards the core. Live work in its same place. The treatment plant, I think in all three, was in that upper corner by the school. So you see that WWT in that blue. That's the wastewater treatment plant. There was a lot of feedback on these plans. Particularly, no one really liked commercial or light industry along the highway. They wanted more focused towards the central core. That was worked out. The treatment plant, again, the concern was for the proximity to the school, proximity to residents of the multifamily, wind direction. So that was worked out. We'll go to the next slide. So this was March, and this is what we call the pre-final plan. This is very similar to what is going to be shown tonight. Really, tonight is going to be showing some of the details that are being worked out regarding this plan. So this plan was a culmination of your comments with respect to the three plans that were presented to the community. So the wastewater treatment plant is no longer at the top by the school. In fact, there's a green space labeled TBD, to be determined. That's still going to be to be determined site. The commercial area is centralized to match the rest of the commercial area within town. And the county of Kaua'i has that corner parcel along the highway near the roundabout. So there is plans for that will be presented. Last meeting, this is in March, the county was saying it could be potentially the site of the wastewater treatment plant, and if space allowed, a potential fire station. So we'll present on that a little bit later. So this was from March, and again, not too much has changed. Next slide. We just want to bring us up to speed a little bit as to what was discussed to get feedback from you guys and what it came out to be. There was a need, a demand for bus stops. So these were bus stops that we are hoping to integrate. We'll show those exact spots, which are still options. They're being discussed with DOT, the county, to see how it will all work out. But bus stops were something that were included, and it's more, fixed on our current plan. Next slide. So we look at some roadway sections for comments and feedback to see what the community thought. We're going to click on the presentation. Next slide. There we go. So N1 is that one along Alamahana. We were looking at grass swales. So you can see there's sidewalk, grass swale, bike lanes, then the driving traffic. So this is a proposed option, so grass swales. There was another option, next slide, where you have a curb and gutter, so more toward the central town, traditional curb and gutter for parking. Still has the bike path, right? So you don't lose the bike path, it's still there. Driving traffic is still also able to go with sidewalks. So we wanted feedback to see what you guys thought of that. Did you want grass swale? Did you want more curb and gutter? Parking? No parking? So that was feedback that I received from the last meeting. Next slide. And one more. There we go. So this is a look at the residential. So this is inside the yellow where the single family housing is. There were two options proposed. Option A, traditional curb and gutter with parking. Next slide. And one with the grass swale. So this is more similar to what is currently in Kilauea Town with the grass swales. Right, so you see the two options. You have parking in the upper right option with the curb and gutter, and there's no parking in the grass swales. So you sort of lose that parking, but you have that grass swale which sort of matches what's currently in town. And I will just tell you that the feedback on this was mixed. Half the people wanted swales, grass swales, half the people wanted curb and gutter. And there's a lot of back and forth as to why, and we'll present as to what came out of that a little bit later on. Next slide. So this is just another look at it, just so you can see a little more visually. Again, the top one is the curb and gutter, allowing for cars to be parked in the residential areas along the side, versus the lower option with the grass swales where there is no parking. Right? So some of the concerns that the county design team had was if you have the grass swale option, you know a lot of people have extra cars, they're likely to use that area for parking anyway, which sort of rules out the real purpose of the grass swale. When it rains, muddy, they're all messed up. So a lot of back and forth. Again, it's very controversial, but it's very mixed opinions to what the community wanted for these areas. Next slide. Okay, so that was a very quick synopsis of the past 3 meetings, right? So there was 3 meetings, 3 different times that we received feedback, we asked questions, you guys just gave us your comments, which we're always open to. There'll be a slide towards the end where if you're not on our mailing list, sign up, so you can email us or contact us directly. There's a county site where you can see all of this past stuff. You can see the design files, as well as presentations, as well as the recording of the presentation. And sometimes we even put up the questions, feedback summaries, so you can read through what people asked or people responded, just so you can see that. So I'm going to turn over to Bill from Bound Engineering to go over the technical side of the current master plan. Now you'll notice it does say final master plan. This is final in the sense that we need to draw a line in the sand so we complete all the rest of the studies to do environmental assessment, roller zoning. So this is final. Can you count all those areas and units to stay exactly as they are? Probably not. It's going to shift a little bit, but this is the working model that's going to be taking us through environmental assessments and all the zoning and everything.
Thank you, Will. By the way, Will is my son. So I'm Bill and he's Will, so don't confuse us. So I'm the engineer, he's the environmentalist. So this is the final plan here. Go through some of the, if you look along Alanamahana Parkway, you see a box rated A. See that? Those are bus stops. So these are what's being proposed by the bus, maybe bus or the Kaua'i bus. But these small blocks there are what's being proposed as future bus stops. So it's still in discussion as far as that goes. To recap, we have some roundabouts. You see roundabouts by the school entrance and the Spline Road, interior road that comes through and ties into the other side of Alanamahana, the Kuhio Highway. So there are 2 roundabouts there and a 3rd roundabout at the intersection of Kuhio Highway and Alanamahana. So And those are the counts. Someone asked me about, well, how many single family are there? So if you look at the table there, those are the number of single family units, 136 approximately, multifamily 130, it's almost a 50-50 split. Cottage court is the CC that you see on the lower right-hand corner of the parcel, and then the live work units there. So a total of 310 units. You see that there's a drainage area, that green belt area is the stream there that's running through. We're keeping it natural. Now, we're working with Public Works right now. You know, you've seen other developments address drainage, and many developments have detention basins. You know what that is, right? It's a big hole in the ground that's grass and it catches the water that's overflow, filters it out. So that's the typical option. We're looking at an atypical option in that we're thinking of using the stream basin as a detention basin and hydraulically design the culverts such that it retains the water but still allows a 100-year storm through without damaging the property. So that way you remove some of the I won't call them ugly, but your typical 6-foot deep fenced-in detention basin. So how many would like to see kind of a more natural detention basin versus a the standard as you see around fish? Show of hands. So more natural, right? So if we kept this natural, this green belt area, how many of you would go down there for picnics with family or walking trails or thinking of walking trails and so forth? How many would use the green belt? So it looks like the folks are in favor of having more greenery and open space. Okay? How many have been down there recently? Well, within the last month or two. Then anyway, it's pretty overgrown. Don't you think? Kind of hard to walk through there. So some work needs to be done to improve it and maintain it, and that's for the future. But I just want to get some ideas from you. So any questions? Well, let me go through it and we'll open up the questions. So next slide, please.
Bill, could I highlight one thing on the last?
Sure. Can you go back?
So Bill mentioned this, but just to clarify, in discussions with the Department of Transportation, they've recommended these two different possible bus routes. The one will be the route along just Namahana Parkway, represented by those A bus stops. Option B would go through the internal part of town along that curving loop road. So from the Department of Transportation's perspective, it's one or the other, not both. So we very much want to get your feedback on the community's preference for the route of the bus and the future stops. So I just didn't want to gloss over that, because we really do want everybody to comment on their preference.
Thank you, Adam. Can you go to the next slide? So this is what we finally came up with. So for Namahana Parkway on the left, we're going to have a combination of grass areas, and it's hard to see on the slide here, and on the right we have curb and gutter. So essentially what we're going to do is have curb and gutter come from the commercial area where the post office is as curb and gutter. We'll extend it through the live work area. Makes sense, right? For this commercial. And then from there, you see, I'm sorry we don't have a pointer, but there's a green edging by the PK 0.4 acres. So that will be a grass strip. So we try to incorporate a rural look to it. So in the middle portion, it'll be grass swales. And then as you come back to the next, can you go back a few? Get rid of these. There you go. So as you come back to the second roundabout, closer to the intersection, we again will transition from swales to curb and gutter, and that'll interface with the larger roundabout at Pavil Highway. So that kind of makes sense, right? So we're kind of incorporating a little bit of urban where there is a need for it. And for roundabouts, you do need curbs, because you don't want people jumping and going around illegally, right? So anyway, so that's the general plan for that. Let's move forward. Next slide. Okay, so for the internal roads, what we've heard and what we are recommending is that for the spline road, where that circle there, we will have curb and gutter. So this is the section that we're going to use, right? So the interior roads, the jury's still out on that, and you can have grass swales, keep it more rural, right? Or you could go with this, but I'm thinking that you probably want more of a rural look to it on the interior, but at this point, the main spline road that bisects the site will be this configuration with parking allowed. So no grass swales in this area, but in the interior you will have it. So moving on to the next slide. Okay, so this slide, you remember the county site, the 3.8 acres, the wastewater treatment plant will take up that corner, right? It's about 2.3 acres. So you can see that blue area around it is a buffer, right? That blue area just to the right, next to the treatment plant and the subdivision, that's wide enough. It's about 150 feet or so, wide enough for a possible fire station. I'm working on the fire station right now on the civil side. That site there is large enough. So there's a buffer around the single family, So I just want to point that out to you. Next slide, please. So this is I don't know how many of you can read plans, but that area that showed, this is the box diagram of what the treatment plant will be. So it'll be built modularly, because obviously you're not going to have 300 homes coming online all at once, so it'll have to be built incrementally, right? So this is, I won't go over this, it's kind of detailed, but you have equalization tanks, various reactors, UV treatment, aerobic digesters, and so forth. So this is the site that you have for the treatment plant. Next slide, please.
Okay. So we will have some time for questions. Okay. But regarding technical studies, remember we said we're trying to lock in something so we can just finish up the technical studies, allow us to do the rest of the analysis on the site. So roadway design and infrastructure, that all Namahana Parkway is the priority that has to be built, constructed first. Utilities have to be run in that corridor in order for everything to work. So that is the priority. Traffic studies, market analysis, the biological, archaeological, cultural, these are, I would say, greater than 90% complete, based on the plans and the modifications to the plans that have come out. So some of the results of the traffic, of the market study, have been used to determine what the density might be, where the roundabouts would be, it's going to work. So even though a lot of various comments came and matched those, good, because it did match what the analysis showed, those are background studies to confirm and to allow us to justify why things are going to be the way they are. And then we're reviewing and commenting on the finals of these as they come through. So next slide. So what's left is a preliminary engineering report. So that is the real technical studies, traffic, housing analysis, drinking water, wastewater, The environmental assessment, we're hoping to have drafts done before the end of the year. That's our goal. There's a NEPA component due to the federal funds that are coming through. So there will be archaeological, cultural resources, and biological and ecological effects analyzed. Then the zoning and permits to allow for the construction to actually carry through. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so this is what I was talking about at the beginning. There's a project website. It's at the county. If you did not sign in, this is the code again to sign in. Please, if you want to sign in physically, go around and sign in before the end. If you already are on our contact list, there's no need to put your email down again. You're already on the list. I think we have over 250 people on that list already. But please sign in. And you can always email us. So if you have questions you think of after the fact, so even after typical comment periods, we still get emails asking about things or commenting, and we read it, we respond accordingly, we incorporate it in. So always, that's open. Next slide. Okay, the website is very useful. Again, it has everything from the past to the current. If you are on the email trail and get alerts, you'll be alerted as to when updates are made. So in the next few days, we'll put up the presentation. We'll put up all the concept plans. We'll put up the recording from YouTube once it's online and available. So you can always check the county site, or if you're on a list, we'll let you know when it's updated. Please get it out. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we're going to try and have a panel discussion. So I know that people want to be heard, want to ask questions as it's fresh in their head. You might forget, you might not want to email it, you might, whatever reason, now is the time to do it, right? So we're going to try and have a controlled panel discussion. So we will have someone from the county, Adam, someone on the technical team, Bill, to answer questions as they come up. So I just checked the survey online, and there's at least 10 responses so far. Previously, before that, there was already, I think, 4 or 5 that came in. So I'm going to be trying to consolidate questions into some sort of format. The idea is we want to get through as many questions as possible. We're going to try and get through them. So if you're going to submit questions, try to keep it brief. So there are some guidelines. We're going to try and respect everyone that's involved, right? So time, tone, and tolerance. Okay? Time, we got to be out of here, like packed up and gone around 7 o'clock. So we're going to try and wrap up the panel no later than 6:30, 6:45. Good question. Oh, no, hang on. Okay, so we have to respect everyone's time, right? We're asking to submit questions, comments, or concerns. We have some sent before the meeting. We have some coming in during the meeting. If you want to write comments down, these are all going to be written comments. We have county people around the room, and they can hand out notepads and paper, or you can stand up and walk and give them a sheet of paper with your question on it, and we will get to it. The reason why we're doing written comments is because sometimes just to get your question out, it takes 3 to 5 minutes of backstory and history. Okay? If that's the case, we have time for 6 questions. Okay? If we do it this way, we can maybe get to 10, 15, 20, maybe more. Okay? So this is what we're trying to do. If you guys need more time after 6:30, we're all still here. We can all answer questions. If we don't get the questions, at least we have it recorded. We will get it to the right people to get the answers, and we'll put it up online. So it will be addressed. Okay? If you guys scan in, you can start typing in questions. Yes?
I'm sorry, I, in all perspective, mostly I did it enough that 10 minutes to try to follow that question, and I hear you talk for it. That's a question, and
Okay. Okay. So I actually have a question. The first question that came up online was having to do with the wastewater treatment. So if you follow the process, the question will be answered. Okay? So for the wastewater treatment plant, how did the design come up to be in that area? What can you give us in terms of background as to capacity? Is this just your current town, or is it potential for the entire existing building?
So if you've been here before, we had the treatment plant closer to the school, right, next to the road there. And there were quite a few objections to that location. One is that potential odors that may come from that, the close proximity to the stream. So if there were a spill, you could have some wastewater getting to the stream and running down to the ocean. So those are concerns. We heard you, so we moved it further away and where it currently is. The treatment plant site, the 2.5 acres or so, is designed to handle all of Kilauea Town, not just our community, this new proposed community, but all of Kilauea Town. So when I mentioned that it will be built modularly, that's what it will be. It will be packaged units that put in. Odors, we will try, the designers will try to keep everything contained as best they can. There's no guarantee. You're asking about odors. They will do their best. It will be covered, and we'll do our best. But there, as far as whether it's buried in the ground, partially buried, above ground, 2-story, what have you, we don't have that details as yet. Right now, it's just bubble diagrams showing spatial relationships.
Okay. Anything, Adam?
Can I make a quick non-engineer's comment about the wastewater treatment?
Sure.
So, for those of you who are at all familiar with the current wastewater treatment plants on Kaua'i, they were all built in the 1980s or earlier using very old technology. If you've driven through Wailua lately, you probably smell the sewer smell from the pump station next to cocoa palms. This treatment plant is going to utilize the latest and greatest modern technology. Water will be treated to an R1 level that can be used for water in your gas. You can technically drink it, although you probably wouldn't want to, but it's clean, crystal clear water when it comes out of this treatment plant. And the plant design is primarily in containers, not big open pools of raw sewage, which you'll see at Wailua or at the Waimea treatment plant. They were built a long, long time ago. So they're doing everything technologically possible to make this the newest, latest, greatest technology, reducing odors to the maximum extent possible, the water coming out of it being clean, ready to reuse at ag park or for irrigation within the community.
Thank you. And then capacity is going to come online as development came online, but in terms of the existing town, is that a potential to tie in? I think that was a follow-up.
That's another project down the road. That's really a regional plan. There's I looked at that. I talked to Adam about that. It's Kilauea Town is ups and downs and so forth. So you can't just grab and go to the treatment plant. So there's going to be a need to master plan pump stations, gravity, combination of pump stations and so forth, force mains to get to the treatment plant. Having said that, bioengineering is doing the design of Awanamahana Parkway. So we are taking that into account. So we're going to design for a relief sewer that will be dropped in the ground at the same time that we're putting the primary one that will serve the site. So that way you don't dig up the road in the future. So that's kind of our planning process. Also, water, we'll have, Adam can talk about the water, work with the Department of Water Supply, but we will have a water main that will come down Namahana, that will tie into the water main that's on the existing. Likewise, we will have a new, there is no sewer on Namahana at present, but we will sub out to it. And eventually, when Kilauea Town gets brought online, we can tie into the gravity sewer system that we have for our plan. But, and you want to talk about water, where they are?
That's a good segue. The next one that came from online is there enough potable water for the site? So do you have any updates on the water surveys, where the potable water might be from?
Yeah, so for any longtime residents of Kilauea, you're probably aware that we're already a water use restriction area as far as allocating new water meters to projects like this. So this project cannot happen without additional storage and source being developed for the Kilauea water system. But happily, some of that's already in progress. So there are 6 tanks that currently serve the Kilauea water system. There's a project that's going out to bid later this year to replace the existing 100,000 gallon tank in the Waipake subdivision. That's at the top of Wailapa Road. So that current 100,000 gallon tank is going to be replaced with a 1 million gallon tank. So that should provide the necessary storage for the entire project that we're talking about, as well as parts of the rest of town and people who've been waiting for water meters. That doesn't answer the source problem. So both the housing agency itself is pursuing a new test well to hopefully develop into a new permanent well for Kilauea. So talk about the tanks real quickly. So all of Kilauea is served by 2 wells that are next to each other. So we're hoping to develop at least 1, if not 2 new wells, separated out from the current well locations to provide a little more, not putting all your eggs in one basket. So we're tapping into a different aquifer, not the same ones. We're currently in discussions with 2 different landowners for well sites next to the existing tank at the top of Kapuna Road in the Kaua'i subdivision, and along the drawing a blank on the name of the road, along the Kilauea Road, up to the Kaua'i Ridge. So those are the 2 tank locations that are being explored by the housing agency, and the Department of Water is looking into the hydrological feasibility of doing a test well next to the new 1 million gallon tank that we're putting in. It's an ideal location for a new well right next to your new tank. And by no means an expert, but Kilauea is a difficult area hydrologically. Some of the old rock formations make it harder than other areas to just drill a well wherever you want to drill it. So we're consulting with hydrologists who've done studies in the area to pinpoint which well site would be the most likely. But the housing agency is independently pursuing test wells to ensure that there's water for this project. The Department of Water is also pursuing a test well, hopefully next to the new tank project. They're going to be using a portion of the Kilauea Town Expansion area as the base yard for the tank project and for stockpiling soil during the project. So there'll be a lot of trucks across the highway piling dirt on the county property, which will eventually be returned to the tank site after the tank is installed.
Very good, thank you. This kind of set up questions more towards county housing. I may just bundle them together and see if we hit all of them. How will the county ensure future homes are for local residents rather than out-of-state buyers? Are there any land lots available for owner builders? And is fee simple home ownership possible in this?
So the county, our mission is to provide, the housing agency's mission is to provide safe, affordable housing for the residents of Kaua'i, not to provide housing for people from Ohio, who are coming here immediately from Ohio. So the primary way we direct our housing development to Kaua'i residents is that in order to purchase one of the for sale homes, you have to be on the county's home buyer waiting list. You are selected from that list to purchase homes based on how long you've been on the list. To sign up to be on the list, you have to be a resident of Kaua'i, over 18, and take a home buyer education. There are currently well over 1,000 people on that waiting list, all Kaua'i residents. The longer you've been on the list, the higher your priority for a future home purchase is. I encourage everyone who might be interested to put yourself on that list. Beyond the home buyers list, County Council passed a law last year that allowed us to give a preference for any home purchases to people who already live and work in the geographical area of a project. So wherever the housing agency is doing a project, whether it's Kilauea, Waimea, or LLA, we are legally allowed to provide preference to people who already live and work in that area. And we are also allowed to provide preference to what is considered essential workers, which in the county ordinance is defined as teachers, healthcare workers, first responders. There's a list in the ordinance. So using those tools of local resident preference, local employee preference, essential workers preference, and home buyers list, I think we go a long way to ensure that the housing that we're developing is going to local residents and not people who are coming from somewhere else immediately. You asked about empty lots. So I'm using our LA. We're currently building a master plan subdivision like this in LA. So the county, in order to provide affordable housing, the county puts millions of dollars of resources into putting in infrastructure in the subdivision, and all of that subsidizes the cost of the home so that they can eventually be affordable. So when we have put all of those taxpayer resources into subdivision, understanding the desperate need for homes, we are hesitant to, this doesn't mean it can't happen, but we are hesitant to sell or lease empty lots to people that could just sit empty for 10 years. Having put all of that energy and money into the subdivision, we want homes quickly built that people can live in. So in LA, we're not providing any empty lots for home builders. We're just providing completed homes, 3 or 4 different models for interested home buyers to choose from. That doesn't mean that as this project moves forward and times change, that some lots could be offered to people as owner builders. I would think that if we did that, we would set time limits for the period of time to build. And that gets to the next question, which is fee simple. So at all of the fee simple sales of lots for homes. So in all of the prior meetings, we've talked about the county's leasehold program. And in LA, which we're currently building, instead of selling fee simple homes, we're selling what's called a limited appreciation leasehold. So the county sells the physical home to the buyer but retains ownership of the land. And we sell that as a 99-year lease, which you can renew, so it effectively goes on forever. It's not a limited period of time after which you're going to take that. You can give it to your kids. So in many ways, it functions as a fee simple home, but the value of the land you're never paying for. So that helps keep the price down, so it's affordable to the local community to buy the house. It also keeps the houses affordable effectively in perpetuity because the house can never be flipped and sold for $1.5 million. When you purchase the home at this subsidized price, it's been subsidized by all of us, taxpayers, you're buying it at below market prices. The trade-off in getting that below market home is that when you go to sell it, the amount of profit you can realize is controlled. You don't get to just sell it for whatever people want. So if you think of it, a Titcomb subdivision that was built here in Kilauea in the 90s, the lucky people who qualified for the lottery for those houses bought homes for $180,000. That was the starting price, $180,000 for those homes. They only had to stay affordable for 10 years. So after 10 years, the lucky lottery winners could sell that house for $1 million and move on, but now Kilauea has no more affordable housing. All of those homes are now $1 million, $1.2 million in value. So, having put all of these community resources in developing this project, we don't want, after 10 years, to have no more affordable housing. So this leasehold concept is a way of keeping the houses affordable effectively forever. So that families in the future will have a pool of affordable housing to benefit the community. Long answer.
That's very good. And there's a lot of resources in the back you haven't seen from previous meetings. You know, like Adam said, you have to kind of get on a list, very minimal requirements with very good benefits, right? Meant for the people in that area. So consider that. Let's see. We're going to switch it over a little bit. There seems to be some concern about the stormwater, you know, once the build out happens and the detention basins and where all that water is going to go. I think detention basins, take a technical stance on that one. And we do have a slide, I don't know if you're going to show.
Yeah, let's, what we'll show you. So can you forward, keep going, keep going, keep going. I'm kind of alluded to it.
Sorry, go forward.
Let go forward. Yes.
Like, I think it's after.
It's in the back, right? Well,
yeah, just in case, yeah. We didn't want to put this like into the presentation just because it's very,
it's very technical.
it's not very pretty. So, but
Yeah, so
it's useful.
this is one of the schemes here that we're working with. So this is basically a natural detention basin. So I'll try to bring it down to layman's terms, but the roadway is designed for a 100-year storm. So this is the ponding area for a 100-year storm, which will eventually go under. You see the double culverts over there? It's a triple barrel culvert with a smaller culvert on the lower level that will always allow water to go through. But we have to control the water. We don't want a big gush. So basically, this design will retain some of the water, then it'll eventually go through. So if you go to the next slide. So this is your standard detention basins that you see all over. So this is the approximate size of the detention basins that would have to bring the runoff into the stream to pre-development levels. So you may have heard that, right? So we're not allowed to increase the runoff into the stream. So we have to store it or retain it and then allow it through. So when I mentioned to you verbally, that's what we were talking about. So I prefer the other scheme, the initial, go back one. So this has less impact, right? So, but it's out of the box type of thinking. There are no regulations for this currently, so we're working very closely with Public Works to ensure the safety of the people and the environmental protection. So that's it.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah, we have these.
And I want to go for a quick comment about this. So, DU Stream, and somebody here correct me if I'm wrong, as it currently flows, ends up at the west end of Kaua'i Beach. It's the small stream that flows across the sand where the current public access to the beach is. If you walk down that beach, you cross that little rivulet that goes out in the sand. That's the tail end of the new stream flowing out on the beach. The stormwater from Kilauea Town currently, along Kilauea Road near the North Shore Clinic, all flows into a storm drain and dumps into the new stream, and currently is ending up down on the beach. The system that Bill is talking about to create that kind of natural detention basin will catch both future and current stormwater from Kilauea so that it settles to some extent and pollutants flush out of the water a little bit before it goes down the stream and ends up at Kaua'i Beach. So our hope is that whether we are forced to do these sort of chain link fence surrounded detention basins or we are allowed to do a more natural detention basin in the valley, in either space, it would be better than the current system that exists, so the stormwater is simply running down the stream to Kaua'i Beach.
Thank you, Adam. So we have had preliminary discussions with Public Works, and we have to work out the details because there are no regulations regarding this. So we're treading on virgin territory now, but I think it's for the better. Don't you? Thank you.
So could it go back maybe 6 slides, just the main site plan that we have? This one is probably going to be more than Adam counted. This slide's fine. Yeah, perfect. So the question was, industrial seems to have been removed completely. And with regards to commercial and light or the live work businesses, how do we deal with noise and light pollution? Can you explain why industrial has been removed?
So the 2006 town plan called for both more commercial and light industrial space in this expansion area. And in our first community meetings, there was, from the comments received, there was a decided lack of enthusiasm for light industrial space adjacent to this new residential community. But there was an interest in commercial spaces serving the local community. So light pollution. As a resident of Kilauea, being able to look up and see the stars is very important to me. So just along the streets, in the commercial areas, I think we are required these days to use very low intensity lights for seabird safety. I think we would do that anyway. I think we're required by law to do that now under a consent decree that covers the entire island of Kaua'i for seabird protection. So there should be very low level street lights to the extent there are any. Commercial areas would have the same hours of operation requirements as existing commercial activities in Kilauea. I can offer, as far as the commercial space goes, that the county is working to create these spaces to benefit the community, not to make money. The county doesn't view these, like we mentioned before, the residential lease limited appreciation leasehold programs. The intention would be for the county to retain the ownership of the land underneath these commercial areas and potentially have partners do the developments. But through those leases, we would control the types of businesses that would be that those would be provided to. So, and through that lease agreement, we can ensure that the businesses are intended and developed to serve local needs through a survey, through a scoring system. We're not looking to have t-shirt shops and black pearl jewelry stores to serve tourists driving to the lighthouse. We want commercial uses that the community needs and desires.
I think that answers that question very nicely. While we have this figure up, somewhat related, can you explain or give an example of the cottage court, what that looks like versus multifamily, just maybe previous developments, what we can expect for that?
I think that cottage court developments are sort of a halfway point between residential street and multifamily two-story big rectangular block apartment complex. So they are multifamily, typically rentals, but designed architecturally in scale to resemble the surrounding neighborhood of single-family homes. And they typically, they call cottage courts because it's sort of small cottages arranged around the green courtyard. So instead of everybody having their own fenced yard, there's a shared green space that all of the rentals are arranged around. And they would typically be small single apartments or duplexes. Our thought was two-story, with one rental on the first floor, second rental on the second floor. But if you were to stand back and look at it in the surrounding neighborhood, it looks like a single-family home. but it's allowing higher density of use, getting more people in a smaller place at a lower price than single family homes.
Okay. And just to make sure, a concern for kupuna and where they fit in, where, you know, obviously single family, the multi-generational could work, but multi-family, cottage court, kupuna could also have a place, you know, in the lower levels. Is that understandable?
Yeah, definitely. So there were a lot of community comments asking for specifically defined kapuna housing, senior living facility of some sort. So the opportunity for that remains in every area of this map is designated for multifamily or cottage. It's our intention to provide that. Whether it is, so it's sort of a policy decision and a social services decision, whether to create a single multifamily project that say has 40% of the units on the ground floor that are all ADA accessible, designated for kapuna, or have an entire project that's only for people over a certain age. On the one hand, it's nice to have a mixed age group community rather than just get all of the elderly folks and stick them in one spot. So that's open to further discussion and vetting. But for sure, the intention is that there will be specifically defined space for seniors in some of these multifamily locations.
Thank you. Let's see. Something that is, I think, absent, and there was some feedback at the last meeting wanting, I guess they call them pocket playgrounds, more planned recreational spaces. So this question sort of leads into that. We didn't quite address it head on, but is there a plan for any public recreation? The question was specifically mentioning or asking about pool, maybe covered courts, restrooms, public pavilion types of things within this community, or is there other things happening?
So separate from these community meetings, we've also had a separate round of meetings with a community advisory board of about 15 or 20 different folks with long ties to community and members of the neighborhood association. So taking the comments from the last meeting that was asking for some more of these recreational facilities, we brought that conversation with the community advisory board. And a preference was expressed that the neighborhood association has long wanted the existing Kilauea gym area to be expanded and improved. So when designing this, and there is potential neighboring lands that could be acquired for the expansion of the existing recreational center. So rather than work to develop a whole new recreational center from scratch, we've left that out of this plan in the hope and assumption that we can expand the existing area by the gym and Bushnell ballparks. Another thing into the mix of thinking about recreational space. This isn't going to happen tomorrow, but Namahana School's intention is to have a gym and a swimming pool on their property. So understanding what their long-term goals are, that swimming pool would serve not just the school, but the entire community, it doesn't make sense for the housing agency to pursue building a swimming pool in this housing area. It's better for us to support the school in trying to achieve those same goals that they already have plans for their project.
That sounds good. Now that we have this slide up,
I also want to mention, there is a lack of defined recreational space, but it is worth pointing out that the Nita Valley green space occupies more than 20% of this project area. So there is potential to have picnic gazebos within that area along the walking paths, hiking paths, bike trails. So we feel like with that green space, understanding that we have to provide pocket parks, I think that's an equivalent benefit to the community, outdoor recreational space. It's also sort of unspoken that the Parks Department has a great deal of difficulty maintaining the parks that they have. So it's difficult to construct a lot of new parks and expect them to be there. Okay, thank you.
let's see. looking at the bus stops, there's a question about the bus stops, and I think I'm going to add to this. So you were saying that the bus stops A, right, the block that's along Kaua'i Parkway, I think it's the oval A's along the parkway in the upper part, and then the ones, there's three, I think, option B running along the interior, 1, 2, and 3. So those are options that are currently in discussion. Is that correct?
Correct. So those were the two options that the Kaua'i bus or Kaua'i County Department of Transportation presented to us to get feedback from the community. So in either option A or B, the bright purple square that you see near the intersection of Kilauea and Namaha Parkway, in either scenario, that bus stop, which has already been created, will be activated. And then we have the option of whether the bus travels only down Namaha Parkway, stopping at the two A's, or option B, comes through the neighborhood, stopping at the B's before going back out onto the highway. Just basically, it seems that the B's provide a better service to the community and that the bus stops are close to where everyone lives. The downside is that if it runs through the neighborhood, we have buses going every half hour through town until 10 o'clock at night. So there was expressed concern about the noise of buses driving through town every half hour, and whether that would be an acceptable trade-off to the community. Take a little more noise in exchange for more convenient bus stops, or do you want to shove the bus out onto Namaha Parkway where noise would be inconsequential, but you have to walk further to get to the bus stop. So that's something we want your feedback on, which option do you prefer?
Okay, thank you. I think from my perspective, I'm thinking just a little bit ahead. This is the kind of thing that we might put out through the county site, through an email blast to people who are registered, to specifically get feedback and have people comment specifically on something. So this is one thing. I think some architectural renderings is something we wanted to bring out a little bit later on. We're not quite ready yet, but that was something that came up in the questions, what will this look like visually in the homes and structures. So I think Adam was already thinking about how do we potentially get that out to people for feedback. So I think the bus routes and the structures might be something that we put out a little bit later on for feedback. So as much as we want everyone to type in their feedback right now about the bus stops, we do have time, but we will put something out in the next couple months on that.
You should have the surveys of the bus question given to the bus, people who ride the bus.
I agree. That's always difficult to do surveys, right? You sort of get everybody. So hopefully the bus riders come out and they make their voices heard. While we're talking about transit, there was a question about safety for biking for children within the new development, particularly along the interior to get to school, and where there are swales, and it's just bike lanes and swales. Is that safe, or is that, where is the best route for maybe the kids to get to where they gotta go, or people who are just trying to get from point A to point B without a car, right? If you're a bike, how are you gonna do it? So
I can take that. So what our planners did was they have a multi-use path, pedestrian and bikes, and that's the green belt areas here, there, and then along our proposals to have a path across the street. And there will be bike paths along the roads too. So there are the green belt areas are the pedestrian and bike paths, and also along the roadway. So there's multiple ways of getting to and from the schools.
I think even those lighter yellow are paths too, right? Multi paths.
Right.
There's like two alongside the street.
Yeah, we're
cut through. So those are all, I think, multi-use paths. So I think for safety for kids, I would say that interior road getting to school and bikers would be most safe potentially on sidewalks, depending on the age. People going more speed, like commuting, like adults, maybe along the parkway and the bike lanes, right on the program. But there was also a comment on the speed humps. Lots of speed humps.
Real quick, when Bill talks about multi-use paths, you should think about the pop bike path. So all of those green spaces are defined paths completely removed from traffic. So you can navigate this entire property around the perimeter and through the New Valley green space and on the pedestrian bridge without ever getting close to a road. It's just defined walking and biking pathways throughout the entire community.
Okay. Got it. Let's see. I lost my train of thought. That's me. Oh yeah, the speed humps. There was a comment on the speed humps. They commented and questioned why are there so many speed humps, and I think there's a lot of crosswalks, raised crosswalks, right? So that those are essentially speed humps. Design team, what's the reason?
Traffic calming.
I don't think that the raised crosswalk necessarily designates speed humps, but it has been something that's been requested quite a bit through our prior community meetings, is speed humps or the sort of the flattened speed tables to reduce traffic. So especially so that we don't have people speeding along that curvy loop road through the community or along Namahana Park. What were we originally thinking, Bill, for the Namahana Park? Was it 30-mile-an-hour speed limit? 25?
We do have the roundabouts, which will be controlling the speed. But of course, you can pick up speed again along the curve there, then you have to slow down again at the next roundabout. But I guess a good point for a speed table or a speed hump might be that crosswalk that leads to the Namahana path, right, to the stream. So that might bring the velocity or the speed through there. So, I mean, it's a thought, and you're welcome to comment on it for.
Since Bill mentioned it, I wanted to highlight what's labeled the Namahana path on there. It's been glossed over a little bit in some of the prior community meetings. So as part of the roadway dedication that I mentioned to you folks that's going to be happening in the County Council on August 27th, the county is also going to be receiving ownership of that path, which is going to connect Kilauea Town all the way to the Kaua'i Beach access. So you can ride your bike to Kaua'i Beach, the current public access, without ever going on the highway.
I think that was also that was also a question that came through, and yeah, just to add on that is included in the environmental assessment, the biological, archaeological, cultural. That's all being studied, so it will be all package deal with the project. So thank you for the clarification. Let's see. I don't know. Is it too early to give a price point at which some of these lots might be available?
But it's going to take several years before any homes are built on this property. So I have no idea what building costs will be then, but I can offer what the actual homes that we're selling now are. So we're building 3-bedroom homes in Limola subdivision in LA. And they are, for that project, we represented to the Land Use Commission that all the homes in the entire subdivision would be for households earning 120% of area median income and below. It's our intention for this project to at least allow some of the homes to be at a little bit higher levels, which is realistic for what the community earns here. But 120% homes that are currently being sold in LA are 3-bedroom, just under 1,200 square feet. There's 2 models. The less expensive model is being sold for $480,000. The slightly more expensive model is being sold for $510,000. That's effectively the county's cost of construction, and the county has eaten all of the land costs and infrastructure costs to make the lots possible, which equals about $125,000 a house. So the county is subsidizing every one of those homes to the tune of about $125,000.
Thank you. We're getting close to 6:35, cutting close to that limit. I think we might end here, but as for the Alanamahana Parkway, that's the first to be installed. Do we have an anticipated maybe start for that one? And what is the potential goal to be completely built out of everything?
So as I mentioned in the introduction, that project was placed on the STIP. That stands for State Transportation Infrastructure Plan, something like that. I may be getting the acronym wrong. But this project was placed on the county STIP for funding beginning in 2026. And the amount of funding that the county had requested from the federal government starting in 2026 was $17.5 million, which is 80% of the estimated project cost. So our hope is that we begin construction on this in late 2026 or 2027, given the federal funding that should be lined up.
I agree. We're pretty much on track. I think the EIS is going to be put out the end of this year. Our plans for Alanamahana should be in permit by the end of the year or early next year. Given 6 months for approval, so probably third quarter of next year possibly could be groundbreaking for the start of the construction. So I think we're pretty much on track with what you're hoping would be the start date. So we're good.
And potential end, like when you're asking,
I would say the Alanamahana Parkway would take about a year and a half, probably a year to 2 years, because we're going to have to build. The Alanamahana itself would take about a year and a half, and then we're on a separate track would be the roundabout of the Hill Highway, because that's really within the state highway jurisdiction. So that will probably take place after we start the construction of Alanamahana itself.
and then you bring on different areas of the housing, potentially whatever makes the most sense, whether it's starting from the town core, moving outwards, or phase the construction of the homes in a logical manner. Is that correct?
Yeah, the intention is that you saw the total number of units over here, that this will all be built slowly over time, right? That was one of the things that the 2006 town plan called for, when it asked for this project to be developed for affordable housing, is that it be gradually brought to the community over time, as opposed to a massive influx of people appearing all at the same time. So this should be developed slowly over perhaps a 10-year period in different phases, not all at once.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are at about 6:35, 6:40. What we're going to do is we're going to wrap up the panel. So let's thank our panel for their If you still have questions, please write them in, email them. I'll take hard copies. I'll take electronic. We will post this presentation in the next few days, and you'll have the same ability to click links, type in responses if you want. I tried to condense about 40 questions into what we heard here. I didn't get all of them. I tried to cluster them, but some are very specific. So what I'm going to try and do is, again, go through whatever we have in the next week or so, distribute it out to either technical engineering side or county, and get responses in and maybe have that posted within about a month. So give you guys another week or so to review, ask some questions. I can group questions together and we'll try and polish out responses. So if you weren't heard tonight, we will try and get those responses to you. And we'll always respond to email as well. But we'll hang out here for another 20 minutes or so, so feel free to walk around, sign in, ask questions, give us questions, and we'll see you at the next meeting, probably for the draft VA presentation, hopefully towards the end of the year. So thank you, everybody. Adam, you have any final words to close out?
No, I thank you all for being here. It's been a pleasure to be part of this community process. Unlike some other meetings that I've attended, it's always pleasant to come to these meetings and hear productive and enthusiastic comments from people as opposed to negativity and complaints. So I'm excited about how the community has embraced this project. So we hope we can do it justice and put together something that serves the community for the next 100 years.